Pokemon X and Y are known for being some of the easiest mainline Pokemon games, so to make my first time playing in the Kalos region a bit more enjoyable, I decided to beat the game using only shiny Pokemon. So our first task is to obtain a shiny starter. The obvious choice for me is Froakie, as Greninja is my favorite final evolution starter, and its shiny is one of the best in all of Pokemon. Our first battle against Shauna goes smoothly, as all it takes is 2 bubbles to take out her Fennekin. Our first gym battle won't be so easy though, as we face off against Viola and her bugs. Admittedly, I thought that this gym would be a cakewalk for Froakie, and I was very confident in his abilities, and thought that him alone would be enough to take down just a few insects, but I was wrong. Viola led off with her Surskit and set up a water sport, which literally did nothing for her, as Froakie attacked with a quick attack. Froakie and Surskit then proceeded to throw hands, turn after turn, using nothing but quick attacks until one of them was the only one left standing. This battle was actually really funny to watch. I mean, just look at the way Froakie attacks when he uses quick attack. He's like putting his full body into his attacks. After Surskit went down, Viola then threw out her Vivillon, and this butterfly was way too much for Froakie to deal with, and gave me the reality check that I needed. Froakie fought hard, getting it down to about half HP before eventually just falling to tackles. And I realized I needed a second team member. So I went to the grass and started running around, and eventually I found this shiny bird. Farfetch was honestly the perfect encounter for Viola's gym, as Farfetch is a flying type and has access to the move Aerial Ace, a move that never misses and does super effective damage to bug types. That being said, it was time to head back to the gym, and instead of using Froakie first, we throw out our Farfetch. Surskit's days are numbered, as it does manage to outspeed and land a bubble, dealing roughly no damage to Farfetch, before getting absolutely annihilated by a single Aerial Ace, taking out in one hit. Next up was Vivillon, and it was time to finally get our revenge, as this butterfly stood no chance against our shiny outlandish bird, and we Aerial Ace it into oblivion. To be honest, I'm still a bit surprised Froakie wasn't able to take this gym out on his own, but it doesn't matter, as we obtained our first gym badge and were able to move on with our journey. After getting the EXP share from Alexa and beating up our friend who would have been a Musically star back in 2016, Froakie gained enough XP to finally evolve into Frogadier, and to be honest, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between the shiny and normal form if you put them side by side. Anyways, a big fat bear was just snoozing and left his AirPods in, so to wake him up we had to go get the aux cord to switch his music from smooth jazz to Mariah Carey, which woke him up immediately. Funnily enough, Snorlax ended up being a shiny, so I threw my balls at him until eventually he stayed in and joined our team. I have a confession to make. I originally planned on beating this game, catching 1 new shiny per gym, but I ran into this silly little crocodile, and I absolutely love the Sandile line, and I wanted a shiny crocodile on the team, so I threw my balls at it, and eventually it was caught, and we added it to the team, so everyone welcome Sandile. Next on the list of gym trainers is Grant, the rock type specialist. You would think that us picking Froakie in the beginning would make this battle a breeze, but you would be wrong. This battle became just a little bit tricky because on turn 1, after hitting Amora with a super effective water pulse for over half HP, Amora then strikes back with a Thunder Wave, paralyzing Frogadier. The paralysis wouldn't really be a problem until later in the battle though, as Grant just goes for a full restore on the next turn as we hit Amora with another super effective water pulse. This time water pulse only hit Amora for a little bit under half HP, which meant it was going to take 3 turns instead of the previously assumed 2 turns. Which also means that Frogadier is going to take a few hits before finally taking Amora down. Now you may be thinking, you still have 3 Pokemon, there's no way that this battle would be harder if Frogadier goes down. But you'll see what the problem is in just a moment, as Grant throws out his Tyrunt. Tyrunt on its own really isn't that strong of a Pokemon, but paired with the damage that we took from Amora, with just a single bite from Tyrunt managed to take Frogadier down to just 1 HP, which also means we have no choice but to switch since Tyrunt outspeeds due to paralysis. Now the goal here was to switch into Snorlax and lick this dinosaur until eventually it got paralyzed. I honestly thought that Snorlax would be able to take hits from Tyrunt a lot better, but I forgot that Tyrunt has the ability Strong Jaw, which boosts the power of all of its biting moves. That means Snorlax can only take 1 hit from Tyrunt, and also meaning that it can only get 1 lick off. Luckily for us, the 1 lick that we do land hits the paralysis on Tyrunt, and seeing as I couldn't really switch into Frogadier because it's paralyzed and it would just get 1 shot since it's at 1 HP, I went for a chip away just to get a little bit of chip, and then sent out Frogadier. Now the only thing Frogadier had to do was not get fully paralyzed and hit the water pulse, and the badge was ours. To celebrate our new badge, and after smacking up some Team Flare grunts, I decided it was time to get a new team member. So after running in the grass for just a little bit, I ran into a shiny Golett. I was super excited about this find, and albeit Golett doesn't have the best of stats, I was still super excited to use it on my team. Running through the cave, I found a seed, so welcome to the team. After picking up our new shinies, it was time to fight Serena for like the 5th time, and it's not even the 3rd gym yet. Anyways, this battle was pretty important. Not that it was hard, but it kind of told me a lot about my team, and Farfetch was becoming to be underwhelming, to say the least. Regardless, Farfetch did manage to take out Meowstic with a knockoff before Frogadier finishes Absol with a water pulse, and our new Seed kills Quilladin with a pin missile, so good job, Seed. I'm glad I picked you up. Corinna is the next gym leader and is the only person standing between me and my sweet 3rd gym badge. Now, I always did wonder why Corinna never used her Lucarios in this gym fight, but I digress. Corinna's Mienfoo was no match for my outlandish bird, and setting up Swords Dance would guarantee that Mienfoo goes down on the next turn. But it turns out that the Swords Dance was kind of pointless because Farfetch landed a critical hit Aerial Ace, which would have one-shot it regardless. Knowing that this is one of the last battles I'm ever going to use Farfetch'd, I decided to leave her in to do as much damage as she possibly could before she was boxed forever. So against Machoke, she gets off one last Aerial Ace, almost one-shotting him before going down to a Rock Tomb. Goodbye, Farfetch'd. You won't be missed. I decided to throw in Croc Rock next and land a Sand Tomb, knowing that Machoke was going to get healed back to full HP, and Sand Tomb would give me a decent chip. Now, the reason I threw in Croc Rock despite him being weak is that I wanted to bait out a fighting type move from the Machoke and then switch into Golett, completely evading it. However, I think Corinna was in my head because for some reason she goes for a Rock Tomb. Now, I don't really understand why she would do that against a ground type, but you know, to each their own, I guess. But it was at this point that I realized that Machoke literally cannot hit Golett. So I spent the rest of this fight spamming Shadow Punch until eventually I won. With Machoke out the way, Corinna was down to her last Pokemon, being Hawucha. And just like Machoke, Hawucha didn't have a single move that could actually hit Golett, which means I was free to Shadow Punch again. And that's exactly what I did until eventually Hawucha went down and I secured my 3rd gym badge. Just before the 4th gym, it was finally time for our Frogadier to evolve into our ace Greninja. And this shiny, as you all know, looks absolutely amazing. And honestly, all black shinies in my opinion are all cool. I've yet to see a black shiny that isn't, but now it's time for the grass gym. Ramos was next on our list, and this gym was by far the easiest fight that we've had this entire game, as with our new ace Greninja, I literally just spammed acrobatics the entire fight and one-shot all of his Pokemon leading up to his final Pokemon, his ace Go-Goat, which only managed to live with 1 HP, forcing Ramos to heal stall and delaying the inevitable. And just like that, it was our 4th gym badge, and with no competition really. After getting our plant badge, it was time to trek through the desert where I found a shiny Gibble. Now, I wasn't recording when I actually encountered it, but I did make sure to get its stats in like the Pokemon screen. Anyways, we beat up some more Team Flare grunts, and he started tweaking out for some reason. And after that, it was time to fight Clement, the electric type gym leader. Now, you would think that this gym would be pretty easy considering we have 3 ground types on our team. But you couldn't be more wrong, as this battle actually was one of the harder ones out of this entire playthrough, but not for the reason you may think. Now, I do get paralyzed off of Emolga's static, which means I take an extra hit from Aerial Ace before eventually taking Emolga down with a crunch. Fortunately for us, Croc Rock does have the ability Moxie, which increases our attack after every knocked out opponent. Clement then sends in Heliolisk, and honestly, I was thinking that Croc Rock might go down here, but Quick Attack doesn't do enough damage, and we get an extra power-up punch off. Now, looking at this back, I probably should have just used Dig, but you know what? It's in the past now. And now, here you can see where the problem was. My other ground types on my team were all almost fainted, so I wasn't really confident in using them, especially with Heliolisk being at half HP and Clement having 2 full restores still at his discretion. After throwing in the seed, I made one of the worst mistakes I possibly could have made, which is using the move Ingrain. Now, At the time, I had no clue that using Ingrain made it to where you cannot switch out of battle. And that kind of screwed me, as I had to stay in and use Gyro Balls against Heliolisk, but as I said earlier, Clement still had his full restores, which meant Heliolisk got back to full HP, and Gyro Ball really didn't do much damage, which meant that Heliolisk got to take out her seed basically for free using just a couple Thunderbolts. And I made another bad decision directly after this, as I went for Smackdown with Greninja instead of Surf. Now, I had thought Smackdown would be super effective. I don't know why I always confuse Rock for Ground, but here I am. We do manage to take out Heliolisk with the Acrobatics, once again picking the non-very effective move, but you know, that's just how I do it apparently. And then we use Surf against Magneton, which does get it down to 1 HP, but it has Sturdy, which means Greninja goes down to a Thunderbolt. Victory is pretty much guaranteed to be ours though, as we still had a Gabite in our back pocket, and despite being 4 levels under Magneton, Gabite still outspeeds, and all he has to do is land a Sand Tomb. Except for the fact that Magneton healed back to full health using a Hyper Potion. But once again, it didn't matter because Gabite's Sand Tomb did over half of Magneton's HP, and he missed. Gabite missed his second Sand Tomb to secure our victory, and all of a sudden, we're in big danger because Farfetch'd is going to get one-shot by Thunderbolt from Magneton, and there's no chance that Farfetch'd outspeeds. I know I said earlier that Farfetch'd would probably not be used again, but does this really count? After setting up Electric Terrain for seemingly no reason, Magneton uses Thunderbolt and takes out our bird. Goodbye, Farfetch'd. Now, finally, for the last time. But it comes down to Golett, and I know I can't outspeed, and Magneton has Mirror Shot, which means I'm pretty much screwed. Except for the fact that Golett, the absolute legend that he is, dodges the Mirror Shot and punches the Magnet in the face, securing our 5th Gym Badge. Golett has been the MVP of this run so far, and I am so glad that I found him. It was finally time to find a replacement for our Farfetch'd, and that ended up being Shelmet. And like I said earlier in the video, I changed all of the trade evolutions to just leveling up off level 30, which meant I could evolve this Shelmet into Excelgor immediately. And to be honest, I've never used an Excelgor before, and the shiny's pretty cool in my opinion. Next up was our 6th gym battle against the Fairy-type user, Valerie. Valerie led with her Mawile, but I had a pretty good plan for this fight. The plan was quite simple. It was just to use Krookodile to annihilate every single one of Valerie's Pokemon until eventually it gets taken down. Valerie did have the ability to throw a wrench in her plan though, as we went for Dig with Krookodile, which I thought would have one-shot Sylveon considering we were like +3 attack at this point, but no, it gets it to about 25% HP before Sylveon retaliates with a Dazzling Gleam, one-shotting our Krookodile. But it's okay, because I had a plan. I threw in our shiny Ferroseed, and then clicked Self-Destruct, and we all know what's about to happen. Ferroseed blows up and completely annihilates Sylveon, giving us our 6th gym badge, securing our victory against Valerie. After such an honorable death, it only makes sense that Ferroseed evolving into Ferrothorn. And I've never seen a shiny Ferrothorn before, but I'm actually a big fan of this color scheme, and Ferrothorn might be one of my favorite grass-type Pokemon. Our string of evolutions did not end there though, as Golett also wanted to evolve. And we finally got our Golett to turn into the Behemoth Golurk. And I can't wait to spam Shadow Punch with this guy. It was now time to face Olympia, the Psychic-type Master. Olympia sends out her Sigilyph first, and I sent out my Ferrothorn, but I realized that I have a Krookodile in my back pocket, and I might as well use him. Sigilyph set up both a Reflect and a Light Screen, buffing their team's defense and special defense. This mattered a lot because that meant Foul Play wouldn't be able to two-shot, and instead it only did about 25% damage to Sigilyph. After using an Air Slash, Krookodile gets flinched, which means that's one extra turn that I'm down, and I wanted to go for Power Up Punch and able to one-shot Sigilyph and hopefully set up for a sweep against the rest of the team, but that didn't happen, and instead I have to go for a Foul Play. I did manage to one-shot the Sigilyph due to a critical hit, but now Krookodile was sitting at just 16 HP and was in very bad shape. Olympia sent out Slowking next, and I was pretty confident that Krookodile could one-shot this thing being +2 attack and using Foul Play. However, Reflect was still up, which meant that Krookodile could not get the kill with a single hit, and the power gem took down our big crocodile. It was all good though, as we still have Ferrothorn, and after throwing him out, we just went for a power whip, one-shotting the Slow King despite Olympia restoring his health back up to full. All that was left between us and this next gym badge was a Meowstic, which went for a Fake Out, which took more damage from our Iron Barb's ability than it actually did using its attack. Now, Meowstic went for a Calm Mind, which probably wouldn't matter too much considering we are a Steel type, and we go for a Power Whip, knocking it down to about 25% HP. At this point, all Olympia can do is heal stall, and we just kept hitting our Power Whips, getting it back down to under half every time, meaning our victory was all but guaranteed. Ooh, a big red button. Surely this won't cause any damage in the future. Ooh, yeah, that might be my bad. It's time for our fight against Lysander, not the final one, the second one. And because it's not the final one, I figured I'll take this time to explain a bit of the plot, why you guys watch this battle. Basically, Team Flare, the team I've been fighting this entire time, is led by this guy, Lysander. And their objective is to wipe out all of Pokemon. I don't know why they would do this. They claim that it's going to make the world a better place, but we live in that reality right now, and I don't know about you guys, but I think I'd much rather live in a world full of these magical creatures. I do understand that there's some of them, I'm looking at you, Phantom, that have terrible dex entries, and I would never step foot in a forest or a dark space. Ever. Because you would probably just die. Anyways, that pretty much sums up the plot of this game, and that big laser beam you saw me shoot out earlier would probably destroy the earth, but we beat Lysander, so who cares? Yveltal woke up ready to kill everything, so I put him in my ball and deleted him from my box. Lysander, man, I've fought you like 50 times at this point. Like, it's just gonna be the same result. I know your entire team at this point. You have no chance. After ridding the world of Lysander and blowing up a nuclear weapon, we ran into a cave where we found this purple guy. Gabite did evolve into Garchomp, but I really don't like Garchomp shiny, so I just put it in the box and put in Pupitar. It was now time for our 8th and final gym battle against none other than the Ice-type user, Wolfric. And this battle was extremely easy, honestly. This didn't cause me any trouble at all, so I'm sorry that I kind of just cut through this, but we got more important matters to get to. We finally made it to the Elite Four, and our first challenge is against Cybold, the Water-type Master. Now, Cybold leads with his Clawitzer, which is a special attack demon and capable of one-shotting pretty much anything if it has the right type coverage. It does not matter though, because we came in with a plan. I put a big root on Excelgor, making Giga Drain do more damage, in hopes that Excelgor would be able to take it out in a couple hits. Now, the first Giga Drain does only about a third of the Clawitzer's HP, but the second one lands a critical hit, knocking out Clawitzer in just 2 turns and healing up our Excelgor to about 2/3 HP. I went for another Giga Drain against Barbaracle, healing us all the way back up to full HP, but Barbaracle connected with a Stone Edge and took out Excelgor in just 1 hit. Now, this wasn't too much of a problem as we were able to throw in Crocodile and a Power-Up Punch as we take a Razor Shell to the face, forcing Cybold to heal his Barbaracle all the way back up to full HP. This works out tremendously in our favor as we can go for a second Power-Up Punch, getting us to +2 attack. And now, on our next turn, since we outspeed, we can use an Earthquake taking down Barbaracle in just 1 hit. And due to the Moxie boost, we get yet another +1 to our attack, making Crocodile +3 in attack and capable of taking out almost anything in 1 hit. That is, until Cybold throws out his Starmie, outspeeding us and taking us out with a single surf. This also wasn't too much of an issue as we just throw in Ferrothorn and Starmie can't do literally anything to this thing, so I decided to set up to +6 defense and Ingrain with Ferrothorn, guaranteeing a kill against Starmie and setting us up nicely against wherever Pokemon he had up next. All it took was a single Power Whip to take down Cybold's Starmie and then forcing him to send out his Gyarados. Now, we faced Gyarados many times considering he was on Lysander's team, so you would think I would know that Iron Head isn't very effective against Gyarados by this point, but you would be wrong. You severely overestimate my intelligence. This standoff lasted a very long time as we just traded Earthquake and Power Whips back and forth until eventually Cybold had to heal up Gyarados with his full restores. So then it was just an onslaught of Power Whips until eventually Gyarados went down, securing our victory against Cybold, and we were able to move on to our next Elite Four member. Next up was Dragon-type Master Drasna, and this fight was a breeze. This was almost as easy as the Grass Gym, and that's saying something. Drasna leads with her Dragalge, and I lead with my Greninja. Greninja outspeeds, hitting Extra Sensory for a little bit over half HP, meaning it should 2-shot. Now, I get hit with a Thunderbolt, and that's fine because there's no paralysis, but on the next attack, Extra Sensory does less than half Jigauji's health, meaning Jigauji gets another Thunderbolt off, killing our Greninja. But at this point, I had a strategy down, and seeing as Jigauji was guaranteed to heal on this next turn, I threw in Crocodile and hit a power-up punch, despite it not being very effective. The reason I did this was to get the +1 attack stat into the Earthquake, which guarantees a kill, and with the Moxie boost, we're now +2 attack against whatever Pokemon Drazna sends in next. The next Pokemon sent in was Altaria, which is manageable, not the best matchup, but not the worst. I can't use Earthquake or Power-Up Punch, seeing as it'll probably do nothing, and most Altarias have Moonblast, so I wanted to get as much damage in as possible before going down to that. I do manage to land 2 foul plays before getting hit with the Moonblast, but it does significantly less damage than I thought it would. And that's because Altaria is a Dragon Flying type, and is not a Dragon Fairy type unless it Mega Evolves. That being said, Crocodile lives enough to hit another foul play, getting it back down to about a quarter HP before he uses Cotton Guard. I got a little bit greedy and went for a power-up punch to up my attack, and then I got even more greedy and went for another power-up punch. Now, Crocodile did get the kill, but now he's only at 33 HP, which means if I get outsped by her last Pokemon, I'm guaranteed to be put into the dirt. Fortunately for us, she threw out Druddigon instead of her Noivern, which means that we're able to get off an Earthquake, one-shotting the Druddigon and getting our final attack stat buff. But it doesn't really matter at this point, since Noivern is guaranteed to outspeed our Crocodile here, and it's gonna fall. The bright side is that we still have 4 other remaining Pokemon that are more than capable of taking this Noivern out. There was no better moment to use our newly acquired shiny Tyranitar than now. And the thing about this Tyranitar is that it can Mega Evolve, and this marks our first Mega Evolution throughout this entire playthrough of the game that introduced Mega Evolution. That being said, Tyranitar does take a Dragon Pulse from Noivern before hitting a Rock Tomb, doing a little bit over half its HP. The Sandstorm gets a little bit of chip, and Noivern goes for another Dragon Pulse, but at this point it doesn't really matter as we hit one more Rock Tomb, confirming our victory and us beating Drazna. Next up was the Fire-type Master Malva, and this was another one of the easiest battles in the entire game, and all I used was our newly acquired shiny Tyranitar. Against this Pyroar literally couldn't do anything to Tyranitar, especially after Mega Evolution, so I was able to power-up punch this Pyroar 6 times. 6 total times before taking it out, which meant not only was Tyranitar's defenses already insane from Mega Evolution, it was +6 attack, allowing us to one-shot every single member of Malva's team. Or so I thought, but Chandelure ended up coming out and hitting us with a Confuse Ray, which meant Tyranitar hit himself with a Crunch, and then got hit by a Shadow Ball the very next turn, taking him out. It was okay though, because we still had our other 5 Pokemon remaining, and Greninja was able to come in and hit a Surf, clearing Malva out. The final Elite Four member we had to face was Wikstrom, the Steel-type Master. This battle was an absolute breeze, as after just one power-up punch, I was able to Earthquake half of Wikstrom's team into oblivion, and then with the other half, I just threw out Greninja and spammed Surf until I killed both Scizor and Probopass, securing our victory and letting us move on to the final battle of the game against the champion. We finally made it. Everything that we've gone through up to this point, albeit pretty easy, it's been fun, and now we're facing off against the champion of Kalos, Diantha. Our original matchup, being Hawlucha vs Ferrothorn, wasn't very good, so I ended up switching Ferrothorn into Golurk, predicting a fighting type move. However, this isn't what happened, as Diantha went for a Swords Dance, boosting Hawlucha's attack. That didn't really matter either, as X-Scissor did about 1/8 of my HP, as Golurk flew up into the sky, ready to annihilate Hawlucha on the way down. Hawlucha gets absolutely crucified by the weight of Golurk, as anything else would, let's be real now, as Diantha threw out her Aurorus. Now, Golurk doesn't do well against dinosaurs, so instead of staying in trying to land anything, I decided it's probably for the best that we switch back in Ferrothorn and just go for the Iron Head that is quad effective, guaranteeing a OHKO against this ancient beast. Next up was Goodra, and I thought I'd be pretty good in this matchup, so I went for a Power Whip. I don't know why I picked that over Iron Head, but it didn't matter, because Goodra outsped and hit a Fire Blast straight to my dome. Now I threw in Greninja because I have Ice Beam, and I figured Fire Blast wouldn't do much, and I would probably be able to take like a Muddy Water or something like that, and Ice Beam does a good amount of damage, but Goodra has Focus Blast. which took Greninja down to 41 HP. So then, assuming that it would go for another Focus Blast, I switched into Golurk. And luckily for me, it actually went for the Fighting type move when I swapped in Golurk for once, and I was able to just hit an Earthquake, taking the Guju down to about 1/3 HP. Now, I don't think this was healing range, so I was very confident in just going for another Earthquake, but Diantha did go for the full restore, getting Gudra back up to full HP, as an Earthquake takes Gudra back down to about a 4. I don't know why Earthquake did that much more damage that time, but it did. And just one more Earthquake was able to take out Gudra, and Diantha sent in her Pumpkin. I sent in Excelgor as her Pumpkin goes for Phantom Force, and I didn't really want to take the damage, but I had no choice. So after taking damage and getting down to 7 HP, I go for a U-turn that gets a critical hit, and I end up swapping in a Crocodile, seeing as long as it doesn't go for like Energy Ball or something like that, Crocodile would live and see another day. And get the Moxie boost, because I would assume that Crocodile would be able to one-shot Gourgeist just using a Foul Play. Crocodile eats the Phantom Force as predicted and uses Foul Play. However, it wasn't quite enough to one-shot the Gourgeist, but it did get it to 1 HP as Gourgeist went for a Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat is a neat little move that just adds the Grass type onto your Pokemon, so I don't really know what the point of that was. But Diantha goes with a full restore, getting Gourgeist back up to full HP, which a critical hit Foul Play puts Gourgeist right back down to 1, as one more Foul Play was enough to take out her Pumpkin. And with the Moxie boost, Crocodile was looking quite unstoppable, and I was very confident that it was all but over. Diantha threw out her Tyrantrum, which we just go for a Power-Up Punch, getting us to +2 attack. And after getting crunched by Tyrantrum, I decided to just Earthquake it, taking it out in one hit. It was now time for Diantha's ace Pokemon, Gardevoir. But it wasn't just any regular Gardevoir, it was a Mega Gardevoir. It all came down to this moment. If Gardevoir was able to outspeed Crocodile, I'm not sure that our team was well equipped enough to take out this Gardevoir, especially with Ferrothorn already being out. I went for the Earthquake, and we outsped and took down Gardevoir, making us the champion of Kalos. I had a really fun time playing this playthrough, and it was a bit easy, so my next video is going to be a Nuzlocke, and hopefully I'm able to get through that. And if you guys are looking forward to that, make sure leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment below. What's your favorite shiny? Mine is Greninja, or maybe Gliscor. I'm a big fan of Gliscor. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.